From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. The new year of 2018 will be a very busy and perhaps historic one in Tennessee politics. It begins in earnest this coming Monday with President Donald Trump's second trip to Nashville and Middle Tennessee since he entered the White House about a year ago. Of course, the General Assembly also begins its work next week, and there are contested elections for open seats for both governor and U.S. Senate in Tennessee coming up. There are also congressional and legislative races that could portend significant and, again, perhaps historic change. To bring some context to all of that and some perspective is former Republican Representative Deborah Maggart, now with the Civic Point government relations firm, and Nashville attorney Larry Woods, who's with us, who's a Democratic strategist and analyst. Thank you both for joining us. 2018 is going to be a very busy year, guys.
It's going to be an exciting year.
President Trump does come to town next Monday. He's going to be addressing the National Farm Bureau Federation Convention, which is meeting here. Now, farmers have certainly seemed to be a part of the Trump base that elected him president, but Larry, unlike coal miners, President Trump doesn't seem to talk a lot about farmers, so why is he coming here?
I suspect New Yorker Donald Trump doesn't know a lot about farming and doesn't have a lot of interest in it, and that's why we don't hear about it. If he can't, issue tweets that put him on the front page of the news, he's not going to talk about it or have any interest.
So, Deborah, is this about the next farm bill? The farm bill, National Farm Bill, expires next year. Is this about some rural thing, or is President Trump just here to be President Trump?
I think he's here to be President Trump. He is very popular in this state, even though I don't think the general public can attend this event. But, the folks that are in the farming community, they were some of the people that turned out and put him in the White House. So I think that they're probably very excited to hear from him.
So the story will obviously be a huge story when he comes here just for the coverage. But, Larry, is it likely that the news of the day might come from whatever the president's latest Twitter storm is, or will it be about something else, or maybe about that book, Fire and
I think the book that's so controversial is still going to be the news next week. And, we've really gotten used to the tweets from Donald Trump every day are what television and the internet focus on, not the press releases, not the speeches. So in that sense, it'll be no different.
Deborah, the heavy use of Twitter by the president, there's no longer this feeling that there's a message of the day that so many other White Houses use to focus their message out every day. But multiple messages sort of get in their way, don't they? Or is that part of the president's strategy to sort of dominate the news cycle everywhere you look?
I think that he is doing what is done in his time. When television came about, we had presidents that learned how to use that medium. And so I think that he is the master of using Twitter. And I've said this to you all before. It's kind of neat that the president is texting all of us in real time. I think it's neat. Now you might not like what he says all the time. You may not like that, but he does you have to admit, he gets his message out, and he can turn the news around like that.
Larry, any modern day president that visits any city or any place always gets greeted by protesters. So what's the resistance going to be doing for Donald Trump on Monday here in Nashville?
The resistance will definitely be out in force Monday at Opryland, at Gaylord, to greet the president, to protest, to object. I'm sure to quote the printable parts of the book that's just out. Yes.
Deborah, another ritual that always happens is that both political parties in that state will issue tweets or press releases welcoming, in quotes, whoever's coming down here. Does anybody really pay much attention to those anymore? I
don't know. I think they pay attention to what the president says, and he's probably going to say he's excited to be here in Tennessee and looking forward to talking to those farmers.
2018 is going to be a big year, but Larry, what's the relevance of political parties anymore? It seems they used to be sources for selecting candidates, used to be the sources for providing money and help. What are they now?
That has really changed in the last generation. Starting with television, probably the power of the parties has declined, and with social media, the power of the parties has really declined. If I want to get a bill passed in the state legislature, and certainly Deborah knows more about this than I do, I need some part of the party to support it. But if I want to be the candidate, the nominee, I don't necessarily need any support from the party. Look at Donald Trump. Yeah. If you'd taken a poll of the Republican Party and its hierarchy in 2016, he would have probably been in last place among the 16, 17 candidates.
So, Deborah, you mentioned the president's popularity. There's some national polls that show him down in the low to middle 30s in terms of job performance rating. Rasmussen has him, though, more in the 40s, sometimes even in the almost to the high 40s. Where do you think it really stands?
Well, I think in our state, I know that he's doing better than that in our state, because I know that some of our folks that are elected officials, they are doing polling, you know, district by district, and I know from talking to them that he is doing very, very well in Tennessee. He is still very popular in this state.
Larry, I think Bob Corker would probably have to agree with that. He got in a tussle with the president last year, and both their poll numbers went tumbling, if you believe any of the recent polls that you've seen.
I think that's accurate. However, every week Donald Trump takes more hits, and some of them stick and some of them don't. But if it's going to happen to you every week, there's going to be some new negative story about you, then those numbers are going, his support numbers are going to go down, and you're going to see fake polling, to talk about fake news. You're going to see people telling pollsters,
fake polling in politics is not something that's been a new phenomenon.
True. You're going to see people telling pollsters, yes, I support the president, or he's my guy, when they don't really mean it, but they don't want to make a public declaration by answering the poll accurately.
Deborah, you talked about Twitter. The president uses it a lot, even in foreign relations. Does it bother you at all that, particularly something as sensitive as North Korea and thermonuclear war, that it comes down to sort of a school darn thing of my button on my desk is bigger than your button on your desk for the nuclear weapons?
Well, would I choose those words? No. But think about Ronald Reagan. What did he say? He said you have peace through strength, right? And so now we have the South Koreans are talking. The North Koreans have decided that they will talk to the South Koreans. I just think that's all interesting. So,
and you think that's because of what the president's done on Twitter?
I don't know if it's because of totally what he's done on Twitter, but I think that he puts out the idea that, you know, we're not going to put up with all that stuff anymore, and I think that is important, and I think people are paying attention to that.
Larry?
But the difference between Reagan and Trump is Reagan did not trust the Russians and knew the Russians were our enemy. And Donald Trump does not understand that, and that's going to be the major threat to his presidency.
We'll go to Democrat Larry Woods and Republican Deborah Maggott are our guest on Inside Politics. We're talking about Donald Trump's visit to Nashville coming up this next week, and politics in 2018 in Tennessee, which is going to be very busy. Back with more of that after this break.